I know you're afraid of being laid off and of AI replacing you. I know you're scared of having that hashtag open to work on your LinkedIn picture. To be honest, the tech market is really brutal right now, with layoffs everywhere, no matter how much of your life you might have dedicated to that company. In today's video, I'll break down 3 things that you can do to start strengthening your position in the company and being seen as that high impact engineer. I can't guarantee that you won't be laid off because layoffs can happen for any number of reasons. But if you position yourself as a high impact engineer, you can reduce the probability of being the person that is seen as replaceable in your company. I used to think the safest engineer was the one who works the hardest and is the most reliable, who ships the most code, works the fastest, helps the most people, who spends the most time in a company. But that just does not make you not replaceable. It just makes you be seen as a reliable executor. And in this world of AI, where execution is becoming cheap and extremely fast, your reliability and hard work are no longer as valuable as they might seem to be. The engineers who the companies will have the hardest time replacing are the ones that build leverage, they create clarity for others, and do work that actually impacts business. Let's break these things down. So, number one, use AI to create leverage, not just improve your output. So most engineers, they use AI to just increase their output, like taking on more tickets, coding faster, putting out more PRs, writing more tests, and things like that, right? And don't get me wrong, you should 100% be utilizing AI in this age. If you're not, you're already falling behind. But the catch is that everyone else is doing the same thing. They are just focusing on execution, but now using AI to just do it faster. You're not really not becoming replaceable by utilizing more AI. The shift that I want you to make, or at least start thinking about, is instead of using AI to focus on your own output, think about how you can use AI as a leverage to help others in your team or help increase others' outputs. For example, you could use AI to build an internal tool that helps your team debug issues faster. You could summarize messy documentation. You can create documentation from all legacy code bases, which is undocumented, which will help new engineers onboard faster. Things like that. Also, instead of replacing your thinking with AI, you can also use it to expand your thinking. So for example, when you're assigned a project, you can ask AI, what are different ways to solve this? This not only helps expand your thinking by not having a one-track mind, but understanding the trade-offs of various approaches. But it also helps you break some assumptions you might have had. It helps you think at scale. It might help you think what alternatives you might have missed. And this is the type of thinking that you can even share with your team around how you decided to put your foot forward on a particular project. This not only helps your team see that, okay, there's a lot of different ways to do these things, they understand the trade-offs behind why a particular way was chosen. And that itself is a leverage because it shows your team how to think. So yeah, stop using AI privately and use it for the betterment of your team and your projects. If you can use AI not just to code faster, but to, let's say, increase the output and understanding and the knowledge of 5 other engineers in a team, that is a lot more valuable. But there's still a problem. AI is mainly useful when you know what direction to point it at. And usually most engineers are waiting for someone else or someone more senior to give them that direction before they can point AI to it. So that brings me to my second point. Number 2, become the person who creates clarity for everyone else. I'm pretty sure all of us have already been in this situation. Think about the last confusing meeting you've been in. Everyone was talking. Product had one thing in mind. Engineering had a whole different thing in mind. Someone brought up some deadlines, someone brought up some dependency, and we were always stuck in this loop of back and forth without any reasonable decision being reached. And usually these sorts of meeting ended with no particular action steps or decision being made. While most engineers in these meetings, they just stay quiet, they usually listen, they multitask, answer Slack messages, they're on their phone. They just hope someone will create a ticket that they can pick up eventually. So the engineer who is truly valuable, instead of just sitting silently and waiting for someone else to create a ticket for them, they'll start asking questions in the meetings around why are we doing something, or what are we hoping to achieve out of this? How do we see this working for our clients? Which will help them understand what direction to take the project in, because in engineering, there's never one right way to do something. You first need to understand the high level direction to take for a particular project. Then you can have AI understand how to implement it in different ways. But anyways, the whole point of this is also to prevent any sort of miscommunication, any sort of misalignment, any sort of assumption that might be made. Because to be honest, these things are extremely expensive. Imagine you assume something in a particular project, you started implementing it, but down the road realize, shit, I totally assumed something wrong. And now this thing is doing something totally different than what was expected. Imagine how costly that would be. It's not only hurting your reputation, it's wasting engineering resources as well. Even if it's taking slightly longer to align on something, spend more time upfront asking questions in these sorts of meetings to understand the clarity and the direction of a project, at which point you can then start heavily utilizing AI to implement a lot of these things for you. And sometimes it's also not just about asking questions. What you can do to bring value to the meeting is quickly summarize whatever was discussed and why we came to that decision point towards the end of the meeting, or if you want to leave a Slack message, you can do that as well. And nowadays, with AI summaries and Google Meets notes and everything, this has become increasingly easy. Sometimes you can just take that and compile that into a more consolidated and high level summary just to keep everyone in the loop and just to have a decision log on Slack or in some other document. So, yeah, stop waiting for clarity. Be the one to create clarity. Ask those questions, summarize those discussions. It'll look good on you. Now, even if you use AI and create clarity, there's still one more thing you can do to take this even up a notch. Let's get to that. Number three, tie your work to business value. What does that even mean? This is where a lot of really smart and technical engineers stay invisible because their thinking and perspective only ever revolve around the technical stuff without ever knowing how that ties into the business side of things. They might complain, oh, this architecture is bad. They might say, oh, this code is so messy. It's harder to debug. The tests are flaky, and so on. And they're completely right. But the problem is the way you say these things, they're perceived totally differently by the business people or the higher ups. Because for them, they might just hear, okay, what's the problem? This is not adding customer value, so just keep doing your work. Doesn't matter if the code is bad or if there's tech debt. Just keep churning out new features which add business value or customer value. If you translate these things into business value, they can be perceived completely differently. Let's take a look at an example. Let's say the code base you're working on is very messy. Typically, engineers would just complain to their managers that, oh, this code is bad, it's harder to work and add features to it. Sure. But let's see how we could do this differently. You can go up to them and tell them, okay, this code is quite messy and hard to understand. It's not only hard to add features to it, but it's harder to debug problems as well. And I saw that the new engineers who are onboarding onto our team, they're facing almost 2 to 3 times more longer to actually understand what's going on and actually start working on it. That means you're wasting engineering resources, which could have gone into functionality building, which is now going into understanding the code base. And that's just one thing. On the flip side, when customer complaints or requests are coming in, it's just so hard to debug our issues. It's taking us almost 4 times as long to understand and deliver fixes to it, which is hurting our customers' trust because it's taking long to get back to them. So you get an idea what I'm getting at. I went from messy code to customer trust. I went from messy code to wastage of engineering resources. I'm tying technical problems into more business side of things. So business or higher ups usually care about things like revenue, saving costs, resources, customer value, customer trust, and things like that. So being that engineer who truly understands how to tie in the tech side of things into the business side of things will immediately set you apart because you're seen as someone who's not just an executor, but who has that high level thinking and can actually help bring value and business value to the company. So what does this mean for you? If you're scared of layoffs and of AI replacing you, the answer is not just working harder or using more AI. It's using AI the right way to leverage impact. Start utilizing AI to improve output of other engineers to solve messy documentation, creating internal tools, create clarity in those meetings by asking those relevant questions, by summarizing those relevant discussions online or on Slack, and being the person who understands business problems and how various trade offs tie into business. there's multiple different ways that you can solve a problem, but understanding which way gives the company most ROI that ties the tech into the business problem and allows you to sell why particular way might be the best way forward. So yeah, start focusing on these things, and how people perceive you, especially the higher ups, will start changing. And by the way, one of the core foundations between any of these things is having strong, confident, and clear communication skills. Because if you struggle at that, you can't create clarity. If you struggle at that, you can't explain your tech to business problems. So if you are someone who struggles with communicating confidently and clearly, comment 30-day plan, and I'll send you my guide to improve your spoken communication skills in just 30 days. Because once you start communicating confidently, your value increases even more, because engineers inherently suck at communication. So being someone who communicates and sells their ideas confidently already, again, sets you apart. But anyways, that's it for this video. Hope you found it useful. And with that being said, as always, I'm just here to help.